Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome to HR Huddle. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Tamera. Hi, everybody.
We are coming back from a 2.5 week holiday break. I could have used longer. It felt a little longer than that. I don't know. So we were just talking about how reentry is a little bumpy usually. And Jen is sitting in her car in Palm Springs because she had a little bit of bumpiness getting out to Palm Springs with the Southwest fiasco that I know several people got caught up in. And so we just thought we would talk and pause for a moment. Maybe it's a little self-serving for us to talk about, what are the things we should be paying attention to, as we start the new year here, as we look at, this quieter time perhaps for HR professionals. What are some of the things that we should doing? So this is not in really any order, but we thought it could help you get oriented also as you prioritize, 2023 and both short-term and long-term priorities, I think is, what there is to look at and say, how does that fit? And what does that look like? And I think maybe we start a little bit more big picture looking at 2023. Jen, you had mentioned you haven't picked your 3 words yet. I got a necklace for my birthday. I don't think I shared it with you that my husband gave me. And the word on it is vibrant. And I thought that was a fun word to consider for 2023. I haven't picked my words yet either, but he gave me this necklace, and that was one of
Boy,
the
I
words.
love it.
Yeah, isn't that a fun word?
I love it.
Like just vibrancy, in our life, and being vibrant and healthy. And I mean, there's so many different things you could do with that. And so that might be a place to start is, what do you want out of 2023? And then we can start to get into maybe the more granular immediate priorities and then long-term proactive things that we should be paying attention to. So I'll cue that up to start, Jen.
Yeah, awesome. Well, and when I pick my guiding words each year, I just try to have them be the things that I'm maybe hoping to keep present or reminded to try to generate or cause in my life through the year. That's what they're intended to be. And I've been doing it a long time. And sometimes the words I like, I know them almost going into January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
They're just so right up on me. And sometimes I have to sort of wait and sit and think about it, which is what's happening this year. One of the words I'm considering is joy. It was one of my 3 words last year, and my mom died, and we had a blessed but rough year at Convergence with a lot of personal issues for almost every player. Had something, one or two significant disruptive things happen, and we had tons of people needing us, and so lots of yeses that we'd said, but then we had to manage those yeses with a lot of just side
Joy.
noise, and pain and suffering too, a little pain and suffering. And it wasn't that joyful, if I'm honest. And, uh, you know, we had a joyful send off for my mother, but it's rough to lose a parent. So I don't feel like when I closed the year, I couldn't have said, boy, that was a year full of joy. What a wonderful, I almost like, I don't want to call it a failure of the word, but certainly it didn't occur to me as that. So I'm thinking that I'm not giving up on it because joy is so wonderful. And it's not just joy all the time. Like your words are not supposed to be like all the time. I'm going to be happy every minute. But,
Right.
you know, uh, recognizing joy when it's happening and appreciating it. And
Right.
so that'll be one of mine. I love your vibrant word. I think that's a great word for you. And, I don't know what my others will be, but that's something I like to think about. My husband, Brian, and I also did a 5-year vision plan, and we did that 3 years ago. And we were just talking about how many things on it we know we accomplished. We did it together. We each had a section for our work. We had a section for our girls, and we had a section for our marriage and travel and recreation and spirituality or faith and family, like the broader family.
Right.
So we have a
Yeah.
huge vision
Exactly.
board with, I think, 9 sections or something on it. And what we did was we picked words, and then we went into magazines and on the internet and found pictures. And we glued them all onto this board, and it sits in our living room. Sometimes it's downstairs in the rec room because it gets obnoxious sitting there. It's so big. But people, that come into our house will be like, I thought I saw a vision board because we try to keep it where we can see it. and it's what we want to cause over 5 years. So we're in the third year now, or starting now the fourth year of it. So we have made a commitment that when we get home from California, we're going to pull out the vision board and kind of look and see what's been accomplished, and maybe what's on it that we're not really committed to anymore, and what's not on it that we are committed to, and make an update. And so that's kind of a big picture thing to do personally, but also professionally.
Yeah.
And like, it's amazing how many things on it we've done. And it almost not like because we woke up and said, okay, what's next on the board? More like we called it into intention, and manifested it by putting it on the board.
Well, and then you talk about it, or people see it, or there's just all kinds of ways, and it gets created, and unexpected ways too, I imagine. So
yeah, I blogged about it when we did it,
yeah,
and so it's out there on our blog, convergencecoaching.com/blog. You could type the word vision and probably find that article, and there's a picture of it. But man, I highly recommend that as a centering exercise. Even if it was just a 1 year vision, like
right.
2023, you could have a smaller board and probably fewer things you're trying to cause. But I really appreciated the exercise because we looked at it way more than just work.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we've done it on a 1 year. My husband and I with some other people have done it 1 year at a time for a few years in a row, and we've stopped doing that. We need to pick that back up because I think that's, an amazing exercise to do. And I think, to your point, Jen, that is something you could do for your, HR function, or for the team,
Yes.
or, like you could do it personally yourself. Like, this is my vision board of what I want to accomplish this year at work, but also you could do it with your team. And there's so many ways you could do that, and then just have it in front of you. But that's a great, dreaming exercise, and then figure out, how it fits, and it will unfold. It does unfold. We believe that the universe will put in front of you what you're supposed to be working on when you do that. So that's awesome.
Yes.
Well,
So, I mean, those are some big pictures. The other big picture on the talent side is just, we talked about it as we were ending 2022. What are your top 3 priorities for the year? And then what are your, top 3 priorities for the next quarter, this quarter? We like HR and talent folks and anybody in an operational role inside a firm to set that 12-month, like, top 3 big priorities, but every quarter to establish priorities, because, your office or your team across offices or across locations will try to put tons of things on your order pad. They're trying to place orders with you constantly, and get you to maybe shift your priorities, or help them on different things in different ways. And it could cause you to lose sight of your more strategic initiatives. You could just get caught in the day-to-day of order taking,
right.
and order fulfillment, and email follow-up and all of that stuff. And so you don't want to put off your top 3 strategic priorities for a whole, I'm going to do them by 12/31, but I'll just order take like crazy for the next 60
9
days.
months.
Yeah, not a good idea. So if you could just pick like 3 things you're going to get done in the first 90 days of the year, toward those top 3 priorities, that'd be great.
Right. Well, and I think that's a good point, Jen. I think that's one of the things I know, we talk about in coaching, whether it's with a managing partner or an executive, committee, or a individual in one of our leadership programs. When they talk about like their annual goals, and we do annual goals or annual projects, it feels so daunting. And it's, what can you do to progress it this quarter? And I don't have to look at the whole thing. And I think that's a great way to say, okay, what steps am I going to take right now? So we were talking about staffing as one of them, as an example. And so this whole, dynamic staffing, and outsourcing, and offshoring, and, fractional employees, and, new roles. I was just talking to one of my coaches before I came here about the client service, coordinator role. And they didn't do anything about it for spring season. But, what do you, that's like maybe a big goal, for 2023. What are you going to do to progress it in the next 90 days, to your point? And not just for immediate, because I'm probably not going to be able to create a new role that can be effective right now, But if that's something I want to do, I'll have a job description and I'll have it all ready that we can then go hire somebody in the spring, as an example. Or if I want to do fractional employees, or some outsourcing, contacting 3 outsourcers and interviewing them and picking one that we can then do and pilot it this summer. So that's an example of how you could break down that big boulder into some small steps that feels doable and not so daunting and overwhelming. And by the way, it'll also bring people along because you'll talk about those steps as you go. You'll talk about the 3 conversations you had with the 3 providers. You'll talk about what those roles look like. It'll be a way to bring people along as well. So you can break those big goals down into, what am I going to do the next 90 days for that? So.
Well, I love that, Tamara, but I'm going to tell you that I'm listening to the big message there.
Yeah.
Is, again, take every boulder down, break it into rocks, pebbles, grains of sand, be unstoppable by just, even if you say, well, we can't do the big thing right now, but we could do something toward it. I love that big message. But I also was cluing in and trying not to, but I kept being distracted by the fact that they did not hire a tax coordinator or a client service representative or, engagement resource coordinator, we've been calling them, whatever you call them.
Right.
And maybe they feel like it's too late. And I'm going to tell you that I've been telling clients it's not too late to still do that, because those people, first of all, most of the firms that we're working with that do it for the first time, they are taking an internal resource that's been part of the admin team, part of the administrator group, and they're just moving them into tax or moving them into audit. So it's not like it's an outside hire. We might need to make an outside hire to replace that
person. Right.
But that could even be a temp to perm if we needed to. And then we have our tool set that you all could email us at info@convergencecoaching.com and say, hey, I watched the live stream and I want the tool set with sample job descriptions and lists of duties and responsibilities that these people would take. But man, they'll make such a huge difference in the work stream in the short run and be such a relief to your people during busy season that I'm not giving up on every firm having at least one person added to the work stream. What happens for all the firms, we know that when they add the one and they really get them going, they realize, man, what the idea is, it's not, and I've been saying this a lot, it's not adding an admin person. It's adding a client-facing service representative, like all of your accountants, accounting grads, but they are going to do everything that is not technical, that is client service, and take it away from the technical people so they can focus on the technical. So attending prospect calls, following up with recaps and other documents, helping with prospect agreements, client agreements, engagement letters, client onboarding, getting them set up on the portals and on all the internal systems, following up with clients to get their deliverables in and uploading them to the systems, whatever systems you're using. Sometimes firms are using one portal. Sometimes they're using multiple different systems that they're uploading these client docs to. Accountants don't need to do that. And quietly and carefully hounding the clients with a smile on our face to get all those deliverables in. So the technical people are focused only on the files that have all the deliverables. It's such a relief when firms do this, and it's at a lower rate per hour than an accounting grad. It's not inexpensive to have the right, smart, innovative person. And I tell people, we're trying to hire a boss. Bring in somebody who's going to come in and boss everybody around and say, why are you doing that? I should be doing that. You need to work on technical. Give me that. Let me follow that up. Can I follow that up for you? Where they start questioning process and protocol and offering suggestions for how to improve the work stream.
Yeah, they're innovating like crazy. And they're like, let's try this instead. Why are we doing it this way? Let's do this instead. Yeah.
So that's got to be a top priority, I hope, for most firms. If you don't already have one person in that role, and I don't think it's too late to quickly shift one in and slide them in. I think they could make a difference before March 15th on the tax side. Maybe on the audit side, it might be a little difficult to figure out where you're going to insert them exactly, but I would still try.
Yeah. And well, that's what I talked to this person about. They were on the audit side. And it's like, what pieces could you pull out and try it? And that, again, break it down. Like, maybe that's our message today. It's like, just keep breaking it down,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How do you eat an elephant?
Yep.
one bite at a time, right? So
Exactly.
anyway, I couldn't help it but to go down
Yeah, no,
that
that's
small
good. That's
tangent
good.
because I'm desperate for firms to do that. It's going to
Yes.
bring capacity. It will open up capacity and make people feel relieved. And right now, people are kind of dreading what's about to come. And I'd love to have you try to innovate, HR and talent folks, to remove some of that dread.
And bring them hope.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, so that's kind of the micro level, and then there's the or the macro level, and then there's the micro level, and just really, figuring out, you were saying like, what am I going to shovel next, and reacting and figuring out what the priorities are, and there might be some communication about here's what the priorities are, and timing. We might need to look at timing. I was, just saying to Jen, we probably need to look at like clients in this proactive period, as we, look at the next few months, what does that look like for us? And we'll do some planning ourselves, but, what are the priorities and who do we need to communicate with? And, what's the timing for that? And so you probably have to do that, help your people do that as well, so that they know what their priorities are. And HR has this little window. I don't know if it's 3, 4 months. And if you like us, I'm sure it's not really slow time, but it's slower time. And I know where there's still staffing and, all of these things that we have to deal with. But if you can figure out like, what are those day-to-day things? And then what are the, other big rocks that you want to progress? You can say, then how does that fit in? And then what your marching orders and your people know what your marching orders are. And you'll be amazed what, if we come back in April, maybe we should remember to do this, Caroline. We come back in April and say, how did we do this first quarter? And just kind of review how did we do when we took those actions and looked at it that way. So I know that's, huge, and just figuring out what that is. And inside of that, should you be the one doing it? I know that's one of the things we're always looking at is, should I be the one doing that, or can Caroline do that, or can Danielle do that, or can Beth do it, or can Emily do it? And just figuring out, right use of resources and elevating people. That might be another one of my words this year, by the way. Elevating keeps rolling around in my head. But how can we elevate people, And so that's another way to look at it.
And so you're hitting on leverage there, Tamera. You're also hitting on keep, stop, start. So
Yes.
we, like 3 times a year or something, we say this in our HR huddle, and we're sorry if, I've said it recently. But if you didn't get a chance in 2022 at the end of the year, the last fourth quarter, to stop and do a keep, stop, start on your role, that's another big picture idea that goes to the micro. It starts at the macro and goes to the micro. What am I going to keep doing in my role that I absolutely love or need to keep doing because it's the highest and best use, the best use of my talent, my level, my pay grade? What am I going to stop doing that I absolutely do not love, or it doesn't serve me or the clients, my internal clients, or my constituencies inside the firm? It's not the right use of my time or talent. Maybe there's somebody else that should be elevated and given those things. I don't just stop things I don't like. I stop things that aren't the right level for me
Right.
so that I can elevate, like you said. And then what am I going to start doing in 2023 that I'm not doing now that I should be doing because, it's the right strategic use of my time, or that I'm dying to do because it would give me joy and I would love it, or I really want to learn it, or whatever that is, the starts. And you can't have very many starts unless you have a decent number of stops, because none of us is sitting around with empty desk syndrome. But if you haven't done that, that's another wonderful centering exercise for 2023. And I personally think you do it after you establish your top 3 priorities for 2023, because otherwise you don't know what to stop or start. I
Right.
mean, it won't be strategic starts and stops. So I think that is something else to consider doing. And the other thought I had about this elevating idea is just, you know, most of us are decently controlling and perfectionistic and worry warts, and we work for perfectionistic worry warts who don't like it when we make mistakes or whatever. And so it's possible that we could feel like we can't stop things because we don't want to give them away, or it's easier for us to do them. We know we can do them really well. And that's just really not going to get us anywhere. That kind of thinking has to be on the stop list. I have to stop being perfectionistic, stop being controlling, stop not investing in teaching others and being willing to let mistakes happen and imperfection happen while they're getting good at doing these things I shouldn't be doing anymore.
Right.
So that's something else to think about as we center for 2023.
Yes. I think the only other thing I'd add as we wrap up, and you might have one more, Jen, but looking at your time off and scheduling a couple big things. And a big thing could be a long weekend. Or, I know you're planning a big trip. I have a big 2-week trip, planned. I have a shorter, girls trip planned. Get those on the calendar, and then, where you want to plug in between that you're doing that. It gives you something to look for. You can plan around it. You can share it with your team. It gives your team permission to do the same thing. Your family knows you have it planned. There's just so many benefits of doing that. Instead of waiting till November and go, oh, shoot, I haven't taken any PTO this year. And then everybody's trying to take PTO and nobody feels like they can. And I know we often feel that way anyway, but we could do so much better if we planned ahead and planned around it and knew what was coming for us and for everybody. We publish it, we share it, and we look at overlap and all of those things. So we can just really feel supported, and we support each other in that time off. So that's another thing I would put out there, is time off and having that to look forward to, and so that you can schedule and plan and prepare. So
I think so many of our talent professionals are so focused on getting everybody else's PTO going, or, reminding people, use it or lose it, or, all that stuff, that we aren't planning ourselves. And then we either don't get as much time off, or there's a lot of like colliding of the time off. And then my people want to be off at the same time I'm off, and I don't feel supported, or I don't feel like I can really take it off because I'm the boss or whatever. Right. So I think what you're saying there makes a ton of sense. And we try to do it so that we're not overlapping, so that I can leave and not worry about a thing, because I know that one of my partners is going to be covering, and that they won't need me unless it's like the worst possible emergency. I could take the time off. And if I don't plan it ahead, that's not how it turns out.
Right.
So anyway, I think that's a great one. I think we've given folks a lot of ideas, and I certainly am walking away. We're doing some of these things. We're doing some of these things already, but we could do some others that we just mentioned. So, and Tamera, I'm going to say this to you. It's goofy for the recording, but it sounds like a blog too. I mean, to me, I think that list that we just made would be good and right.
Yes.
FYI.
Perfect. That's
I know
great.
It would help me to see that checklist in writing to make sure I'm doing them.
Yes. And then we can go back and revisit it. And that's the thing. It's ongoing. This isn't like check done, January 2023. It's check done for January 2023, and then revisit it regularly, update it. Like you said, you're going to go back and look at your pictures and words for your 5-year vision. Yes. It's not static. They're living documents, and they're rudders for us. That's how we should be using them, as rudders. And so they need to be updated and, sharpened, and, go from there. So anyway, we hope you are enjoying this entrance into 2023. We look forward to spending the year with you. We would welcome any topics that you would like us to discuss on the HR Huddle. Email us at info@convergencecoaching.com, and we will definitely, look at those and get those added. And we enjoy the, interaction when you're live, and we hope you enjoy it when you're listening to the recording, and, welcome feedback at any time. So have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much.
Bye, all.